Hello, my name is Ashley Evans, and this is month 3. I've been procrastinating about this video for a bit, and I realize it's gonna be kind of a challenge for me to keep up doing them every month, but I really want to make sure I get them all done because I'm gonna forget everything. This month's theme, crazy symptoms. And I guess let's just get into it. So I was watching a video, and I'll probably put like a little I was watching a video. I was really curious about how my body is changing. Everyone has all these videos and clips and stuff about like how the baby changes and how the baby grows, but I'm like, how does my body change? And I found a video talking about like the physiological changes within the pregnant mother. And the most interesting thing that I learned about, or the most applicable for this video, was actually the hormone changes. So we talk about HCG, the hormone, the pregnancy hormone as being the one that makes you all sick, and it goes through the test and tests you as being pregnant and all the other stuff. It actually has like a peak, and then it's going to go down right around the end of the 3rd month, or at the end of your first trimester. And what is replaced with it is estrogen and, I'm going to butcher this, progesterone. I can't speak English. I know I can't speak English. Can't speak Japanese either. The other hormone, these two work in tandem. Unfortunately, progesterone is kind of like, it's hard for me because specifically it is triggers with most of the digestion. Not like the relaxant that makes your esophagus, or specifically my esophagus, nice and open, so makes you more nauseous. Progesterone specifically kind of, watch the video. Watch the video. The one that's been bothering me the most has been the continued gas pains. And I'll get to that a little later. But another interesting thing that was, no one ever told me that this would happen, was the pressure of my eyeball. Progesterone changed the pressure of my eyeball one day. Just one day. I'm just hanging out, doing my own thing, and I lost vision out of this eye. Just all of a sudden it was blurry, like I wasn't wearing my glasses. Took off my glasses, and I was like, what's going on? You know, trying to compare my vision. Just apparently that's a thing. And I mean, it was scary, I'll give it that, but after a while it kind of went away, and of course I was like, do I have to change my glasses? Like, is this gonna be permanent? Like, but no, it was fine, and it's fine now. They also talk about progesterone, it's gonna be different every time, is the things of your hair growth. Your hair won't shed as often, thus making it feel thick and shiny. But I haven't really seen a change in that. I've seen it in my nails. I will clip them very, very closely, and within a week they're like as if I didn't clip them at all. And after 2 weeks, it's like almost danger for anyone near me. I noticed as well after a shower that my skin was pretty dry, like more dry than normal, and I'm talking we're in the middle of September, October. It's not that cold yet. And I have another video that'll, you can use and click and see for yourself. It was a video of pregnancy hacks. This lady is much further along than I am, and she's like trying to do like a home birth or something like that. I was like, more power to you, girl. But she actually has some really cool like tips. Some of them I've heard before, like the sports tape for your belly for more support. But like ones I'd never heard before was like the pregnancy tea, and specifically how she treats herself for stretch marks. I went to go buy, I want to talk about color too. We went to pharmacy, drugstore, or whatever, and I was like, I just need something to lotion me up. I know Johnson & Johnson's really good, and we were talking to another recently, a family that recently had a baby, and asked what they've been using, or what does she use for her skin. She's like, I use this and some other stuff. And I was like, well, out of all those brands that I know for sure won't have any skin lightener, I went for this one. Interesting enough, they have two of these. One is pink, one is blue, and there is no difference other than the label. They're literally obsessed with that. Whenever I went to get myself registered at the Baby Depot, they were like, which charm do you want? Do you want the pink one or the blue one? I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're like, which one do you want? What baby do you want? You're gonna want either or, right? I don't really care. But anywho, in her video, she was talking about how specifically lotions like this one still have like carcinogens and stuff. And she was like, it's all bad for you. And so she recommended 3 different oils, one of which I haven't gotten a hold of. I used to use it on my hair when I got to Japan, and I haven't found it since. It's coconut oil in the beauty aisle, not the cooking aisle. Actually, I can probably blend it in the cooking aisle now that I'm thinking about it, because it's like virgin coconut oil. It has a long saturation time or something like that, she said. But the other one she wanted or recommended is rose hip seed oil. Now I didn't know if I was allergic to this at all, so whenever I got it, I did like a quick little tester. And when I bought it, I was also hoping that it would be helpful for my husband who has eczema. It just, it wouldn't be just like I bought an oil only for my skin to prevent like stretch marks. Not even sure if like it would even work or not. But we've been putting on my belly and hips pretty much every night after a shower. And I don't know if it's gonna work or not. I still want to get a hold of some coconut oil. We'll see how that works too. And I also got a hold of another lady on TikTok, and she had found some other oils I wanted to try. I'll have to do a review on that in the next video. Speaking of skin, I've been breaking out. And the thing is, it's like, oh, you're gonna break out just like you were in your teenage years. I didn't break out that bad as a teenager, but I didn't break out on the side of my temple, on the back of my shoulders. Like, you can still see a few of the scars here and there. I got one like on my chest. It's not like it was when I was a teenager. It's just a really adult acne that's pretty bad. And yeah, it's pretty bad. It's not to the point where it's invading in my like daily life, but it's pretty bothersome, I want to say. Another really irritating symptom that I got this month was, before I was pregnant, I have, as my husband would say, a hawk nose. I just smell everything in like 3D, and all these hormones like make that worse or more potent. Like I can smell even more, and it just makes everything smell disgusting. Everything smells nasty. I was asking my husband yesterday, I was like, we've cleaned the house already. The one thing we hadn't done is mop. Maybe we can mop and it'll stop smelling so bad. And sure enough, after we vacuumed and mopped, the house smelled cleaner. Literally, the dust and the sweat from our feet was bothering me so much. But the other problem is that I've also been sweating more. Again, we're in the middle of September, October, and I'm sweating through my deodorant. And it's a problem. It's a big problem because I am a sweaty girl. I get it from my dad. How lovely. But then I just smell like BO. I smell awful. And I'm like, does anyone else smell this? Is it like, am I just, oh, just, it smells sweaty, and like I hadn't showered, even though I'm showering almost 2 times a day. It's a hot mess. But these are some of the symptoms that I was like experiencing that no one really talks about, or no one really like gives you advice beforehand. So I thought I'd talk about them. The next thing I want to get to is my appointments that I went to. I had an appointment at my 8 weeks and at my 11 weeks. And the 8th week, I was, it was the first one after I got my registration and everything. But I didn't tell the doctor because, I don't know, when you have a history of having a miscarriage, you kind of like don't want to tell people that you like did all this stuff really early. And it's like, yeah, you're 5 weeks. I'm like, I'm gonna get myself registered by the government. So I didn't tell him, and I actually messed up a bit because I gave them my Marufuku, my welfare card, whenever I checked in, but I did not give them my, I got a little case for it. It's actually for, you can barely see it. It was a brown background, and so it looks like a cute little bear, but now it just looks weird. And, but it's really nice because I also put my Marufuku in there too. And it slides into a journal that I went to go buy. Now the problem I had about this is that this book is about an A4 size, whereas the Japanese, because this one again is the English one, right? English and Japanese. The Japanese one is actually significantly smaller, so any little handbook cover and cute little cases, they just didn't fit, and it was kind of sad. But I made it work, and I think it looks super cute. But anywho, I forgot to give them my actual maternity book and my coupons the first time for the week 8. Doi. And at the end of the book, I was a little distracted as well because my interpreter had a family emergency, and we were running late in the appointment because it was like a later appointment. It wasn't like an early one. And so like even the doctor was kind of rushing us out so that we can go and take care of the business he needs to go take care of. And I was like asking him about like, I'll get to the testing stuff, but I was asking him about like genetic tests. I was asking him about genetic testing, and I was also asking him about like the suwari, the morning sickness medicine that they gave me. I was like, dude, I don't want any of that anymore. He goes, it's fine. A lot of people don't like it anyway. I was like, why'd you give it to me? But the doctor was like, we want to get you registered because you don't know how to get registered because you're not Japanese and we haven't told you anything about, how to get yourself registered and why it's important. I was like, but I already They're like, oh, well, cool, you already registered, but you didn't do your stuff all properly, so we can't do it all together. So he didn't like put like, they're supposed to put like my, like, for example, this has like my appointment for my week 11, and it has like my weight, my blood pressure, my urine, and then it also has like my vaccine. Now the doctor had scheduled me, I asked him before, I'm not sure if I mentioned in the last video, I asked him, I was like, hey bro, I did talk about it. So I saw that the FDA and the Japanese equivalent had made the Pfizer vaccine like no longer an emergency vaccine but an actual vaccine, and that they were recommending that pregnant women get themselves vaccinated along with the other like elderly and people who are of priority workers, emergency workers. I forget the term for it. But he got his appointment with the actual clinic, with the same clinic that I'm working with. I just had last weekend my second shot for the Pfizer vaccine. I had no issues, no big symptoms, no fever or aches or pains, just my shoulder was sore for both times. Just good. I'm so glad I got the vaccine. I'm so glad that I don't have to worry about it. Me being pregnant basically gives me a compromised immunity, and I don't want to have to, have an emergency delivery, or I get so sick to the point where, it's dangerous to me or the health of the baby. So I'm just so glad that that's all over and finished. And I'm so glad that it was offered by my clinic as well. They did need to get because Japan's slow and all the bureaucracy, and they actually didn't need to get my coupon from my city saying that, hey, if you get registered anywhere, you can use this, saying that you're allowed to get it, basically, something like that. And this is what mine looks like when it's finished. It just has just a lot of information, just flash, I guess. It has stickers, 2 stickers with my name on it, and I think my insurance and my address and the city registration, and then I have the vaccine information saying that I was vaccinated by which vaccine, from what clinic, and at what date. And so that's my proof of vaccination. And it's actually also stamped as when I got vaccinated onto my little maternity book. So let's talk about my second appointment and my 3rd month for week 11. I was supposed to go and get an NIPT, non-invasive prenatal testing. That one was the first testing of 3 potential testing that you can get for genetic testing. The second one, the first one, NIPT, is for your 10th week. The NT testing, the neutral translucent screening, that's around 11 to 13 weeks. And then the last one is a CVS, a chronic villus sampling, and that one is at your 13 weeks. And the first and the third one are more of if you want them. They're not really required or recommended as much. It's more if you want to pursue further testing. This is information that I was confirmed by my doctor as well. And we had talked about getting an NIPT. I had to go to Tokyo for it, but me and my husband were getting cold feet. Specifically me, because before we got pregnant, the 2 of us talked about it. It's before I have hormones and and all my feelings, let's make a decision about how we feel about parenting. If we end up finding out that we're having a sick child, or a child that could have a major deformity, or even possibly he feels really strange about having someone who has a learning disability. And it's not that we don't like people who have those things. It was an issue of us being parents and our ability and what we thought we could do as parents. Specifically, my husband's thinking a lot of he doesn't think that he could handle a baby that requires a lot more care. Especially the fact that we're in a different country than where our family is. I really do commend parents that, are parents for children that have special needs. It's a lot of work. I can say all I want, oh, I can do it or I can handle it, but I'm not in that situation. I can't tell you if I could do that or not, And of course we've been praying for the healthiest thing we can get. And my husband keeps having this thing of he saltily, really almost angrily about it, of saying, the Lord will prepare you for whatever He wants to prepare you for. And, it's like a Bible passage, and I'm kind of ad-libbing right now, that He won't give you anything that you can't handle. But whenever He says, I'm you're using it in a way that's very passive-aggressive, saying that God just won't give you anything good, or that God will just only give you things bad because, whatever reason. It's what has God ever been awful to you? When has God ever given you something that, was, your life's been great, yeah, we have our ups and downs, and, at the same time, it's kind of this, be positive about the situation, and we've got to be more loving and joyful about the baby that we've been given. And with that same logic, I've been, I fell in love with this baby that I have, and I didn't do the NITP testing because I was just so nervous, and I was I don't want to know. know that sounds stupid, because you should know, it's a form of information that, you need to be prepared for. At the time, we just weren't ready for that information, or, you kind of expect that, if you're going to terminate your pregnancy, that would be much earlier, like 6 to 8 weeks, something really early. This testing was in week 10, and the NT testing, the one that's more regularly recommended, is in week 11 or 13. You're at the end of your first trimester. Just things that you're not prepared for whenever you think you're ready for it, Speaking of the NT testing, I went to my 11th week appointment. I was like, hey, can we get this testing? And they're like, we can try. And so whenever he did the ultrasound, I might put the ultrasound here, I might not. It's a little long, it's like 2 minutes or something like that. And he basically went to measure the fluid near the baby's spinal column, and he said that it was too small. It was slightly too early, because I came right at 11 weeks 1 day, versus a little further in. And he said, but despite the fact that we can't really test it, the baby's development is showing that there's no real problems. And he was looking at the entire spinal column of the baby and saying that he didn't see anything that was abnormal, and that there's nothing you should worry about. I can't tell you how many times the man told me, "Shinpai shinai, don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about it. You're fine," But they did go ahead and do the rest of that testing, which was a blood test. Before I get into the juiciness, I did want to just go ahead and show you the baby pictures. I'm a little nervous about it because of how the second one looks. The second one looks pretty weird. But here we go. So this is at 8 weeks, and you could visibly see the baby's heart pumping, and little nubs of the hands and oh, it's so cute. Every time I have one of these, they keep asking me, what, are you okay? Do you understand what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I'm admiring how cute the baby looks like in this little... So the second one, he wanted to show off the fact that the baby's facial structure has been fully developed, but the baby looks like an alien. So that was the one I was nervous to show, but it was good. It's good news. It's good news that the baby's development is to the point where you can see distinctive features. And the reason why the baby looks like an alien is because it didn't have any fat. So it just... So let's get to the juiciness of the topic of the juiciness. And the reason why I'm calling this some juicy gossip is basically how the nurses were acting about it. So, there was this lovely lady. She was literally the first nurse that I met when I went there, in last December. I was like, hey, something's wrong with my body. What's going on? And the fact that she speaks English, at least enough English, she was the one who was working with me. She basically saw through, just like the doctor that I'm working with, she's been with me, the miscarriage, the second baby, actually all the other in between the pregnancies, with all the nervousness, the depression, the possible pregnancies, all this other stuff. She was there. She's an old lady. She's so sweet. I love her so much. And unfortunately, I hadn't gotten a chance to actually see her or talk to her and tell her I was pregnant because she wasn't on duty. The doctor was like, hey, don't you want to tell so-and-so? I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, well, she's going to be available on your 11th week, that appointment, but we're going to move it from a Monday, like you've been coming on a Monday, we're going to put it on Thursday. Now, there was a problem because the doctor could only prescribe for only 2 weeks, so that gas pain that I've been having, it was pretty bad, and I was just complaining to my interpreter, because I see him pretty regularly. I was like, hey man, this gas pain's pretty bad. I know that it's like Sunday, like, it's been only a few days. I could probably be okay. He was like, well, if it gets too bad, we can call them. And then, like, we ended up calling, like, the day before, where it really wouldn't matter, honestly. But despite that, he called. And we've stopped to the point where he would call and I would so it's like three-way call, where he's calling the clinic and then I'm on the other line, so if they need to ask direct questions, he would just call me or talk to me real quick and then I would answer and he would just translate. I trust him enough to the point where I was like, you got it by yourself. I told you what I need to talk about. Hey, are we getting the NT testing for my appointment? And is it possible that I could get a new prescription for my gas pain? And he was like, yeah, they're like, don't worry about the gas pain or something. It was something weird. It was like, don't worry about it kind of thing. And they hadn't scheduled me for the NT. And I was like, oh, darn it. But I was glad whenever I went to the extra appointment and then they were able to do it, even though they weren't actually able to do it. Now, we're in the appointment. My interpreter is technically late. He is kind of going through the motions of, he knows that whenever he goes in, he gets the little tag that says, I'm an interpreter, don't get mad, pregnant lady. I know I'm a gigantic white forwarder, but like, don't get all uppity about it, But also the fact that he's male. That partners are not currently allowed to go into any of the appointments with the mothers because of coronavirus. Just a precaution that they've done since I've basically seen them, and I've been seeing them only throughout the time of the coronavirus. It's interesting though. It will be interesting to see now that almost all of the pregnant women that they've had vaccinated by this point, or would be in the process of getting it. So we'll see how that actually is going to change, especially when it comes to like delivery and who can come and all that other stuff. But for the time being, he had to go to sit in his car and wait for my appointment, and I text him, hey, I'm ready to come in to go and be seen by the doctor. Now, we had already talked about what time the appointment was, right? He just was like, I'm going to be there at this time. And I was like, okay, cool. But then my homegirl comes over. She's like, hey girl, what's up? I'm like, hey girl, what's up? And we're just chit-chatting, but then she's asking some other questions. She was asking about the phone call that we had the night before. She's like, hey, are you having pain or something like this? Or you're asked about the NT testing or something strange like that. I was like, yeah, it was fine though. We had a phone call. And she goes, who called? I was like, it was my interpreter. She's like, okay, it wasn't your husband, right? I was like, no, it wasn't my husband. I know you guys get him confused. Two white dudes. Look nothing alike, the age is different, like, two white dudes. But no, he's not my husband, he's my interpreter. And he called you yesterday around noon, right? I was like, oh, okay. This is the first clue. So then she starts asking questions. She goes, is he reliable? She's asking about his reliability. Obviously he's late currently, because he hasn't showed up yet, but apparently he was in the parking lot, he just didn't come up. But my appointment came a little earlier. They called me in earlier, and I was like, hey, dude, where you at? Like, they call me now. And, like, she just keeps asking me, like, is he going to be okay, like, in the delivery room? And I was like, I hadn't really thought about it. Does he have to be in the delivery room? Questions we had to consider. But, we're all adults about the situation. We know it's all for medical things. So, again, it was a discussion that we had to have. He comes in and is like, hey, man, they're asking about if you're going to be a reliable person. Because obviously the last appointment we had, you had to split, much earlier than it should have been. And this time you're running late, I'm questioning if you're reliable enough at this point. Now, I know that your Japanese is on point, so I'm not concerned by that. But apparently that was the problem. We get to my appointment, and then my homegirl is like, all about him, like, hey dude, like, do you speak Japanese? Because we had this really weird phone call, which we thought was from somebody, and I was like, it was from him. She goes, this is from him? Now, she'd already met him before, right? Because he's my interpreter. And, he has helped them out with some of their official documents they've given me that was kind of strange. And he just wants to do it for free. He's a helpful dude, whatever. Wants to make good relationships with everyone. And she was just like, are you going to be a reliable person? Could you even do all these things that you're supposed to do? And I'm all in Japanese. And I'm just like, my interpretation of what's going on. But she's like, asking some serious questions. And I was like, what is going on? And they're like, well, didn't you say that she had pain medicine? And both of us clarified that no, it was not about, the phone call was not for pain medicine. It was for an extension of my existing prescription for gas relief, gas pains. I think, personally, what I think happened, and I've seen other men come in as interpreters that are partners of the mothers, is that there might have been a mix-up, like his phone call and then like right after, right before, of someone who was a husband who had poor Japanese. And the reason why I say this, because after my appointment, homegirl was like, hey, we forgot to do something real quick. We need to get some blood tests, right? And then the blood test lady is like, hey, I was looking for you. Come on. And they pull me into this tiny room. It's not even an appointment room. It's just like this specific room for blood tests, right? And the blood test lady, and like, they don't even start. They're just like, okay, so we got this phone call, and you're telling me that was your interpreter, but they could not understand him. It was so jumbled and so bad that they were like, this person can't speak Japanese, right? And me and my interpreter were also talking about me and my husband, as an alternative, especially with the idea of my interpreter might require my interpreter to be at the delivery time, that maybe my husband, who is now currently studying for the Japanese proficiency test, it's a lower level, but I think his Japanese is better. He'd obviously have to study a lot more of medical Japanese, but we were just like trying to do like a stretch or something, or maybe he could do it. And they're just like, well, we've heard your husband's Japanese, and it's not there, right? Because the thing is, my husband can understand most of the Japanese. He can't reply. And that, for the Japanese people, like, he can't talk, right? And they're telling me about this phone call, and I was like, this sounds really strange. That my interpreter was so bad. I mean, this man has been in Japan for almost 20 years, and, married a Japanese wife. His kid is mixed, and of course he's speaking to his kid Japanese and English. Like, I'm like, what is going on? This man shouldn't have no problem speaking Japanese to you. He's fluent. And obviously, my homegirl was also, like, vouching for him, too. Like, I've talked to him. He's worked with us. He's good. I don't know what happened. Now, the second theory I have is that somebody at the office is being racist or sexist, and that they just don't like my interpreter, and that they're just trying to create a fuss about it, saying he just can't do his job, so obviously she can't stay here, she can't deliver her baby, which that was the threat. The threat was, if you can't find an adequate interpreter, we're gonna have to cancel your reservation to deliver your baby here, right? And that was devastating, because, like, I love you guys, and this is what, the three of us are talking, I was like, I really, really do like this clinic. I like the people I work with. I trust you people, and I want to continue to work with you, right? The blood test lady was like, the reason why this is so important for us is because, this is all in Japanese. The reason why this is so important for us is because, homegirl is only for outpatient. She is here, she speaks English, but she's only for outpatient. Inpatient, I'm an inpatient. Now, if we're together, and we're working together, and we can't even talk in basic conversation, that's gonna just, our relationship as patient and care worker is just gonna fall apart, And I was like, I understand exactly how you're feeling, and I understand why this is an important issue for you, and I understand you guys want to work for me, but I also want to work for you. Now, at this point, I had a third option, other than my existing interpreter and my husband, is I have one Japanese friend who speaks a lot of, I think her English is really good. The problem I had was that I was nervous about her personally, because she's been having just as much difficulty, if not more difficulty, getting pregnant as I have. and her husband, they're such a lovely couple, and I really do hope the best for them, and I hope that they get pregnant soon. But I know that struggle of constantly people asking you when you can get pregnant, when you'll start a family, do you like children, and just like, if you're in that position where if you're angry and frustrated and depressed, that seeing your friends being successful with a pregnancy or even just being pregnant could just be so distraught, inducing. And I was really nervous about asking her about being my interpreter, but I brought her up. I was like, hey, I've got a friend, she's from a small town, it's a little far from here, but I could ask her. And the three of us were talking, and she's like, well, she could, because they were like, could this man, could this man help you after postpartum best breastfeeding advice whenever we're trying to help you how to, like, get your baby fed? I don't feel comfortable with that. You shouldn't feel comfortable with that. I feel like I'm just like, we're all like 13-year-olds, and it's like, you want him to like know you have lady parts? It's like, we're adults here, but if you as my staff are uncomfortable by this idea, I personally would like to change, right? I asked them sometimes, do you not like him? Do you want me to change? They're like, no, it's fine, but I could read the room. They want someone different, right? And I've actually asked through him, hey bro, do you have any female friends who could help me out? Do you know any medical interpreters that can help me out? Anything at all. And he just came out dry. I was like, well, maybe even if my friend also doesn't want to help me out, which is completely fine, maybe she has someone who can help me too, right? And I was like, hey guys, well, she could possibly do like a phone translation, because she lives a little further away. But they felt immediately a lot more comforted by the fact that I could have an alternative person who is a woman, and someone that they felt like they could trust immediately. And obviously the fact that she's Japanese, you can't complain talking about that she can't speak Japanese. This is just an issue of just living in Japan. There's a lot of racism. There just is. And there's also a lot of sexism here. There's a lot of sexism. And it's something that you gotta really just struggle through. Now, I'm just gonna give you a little hint now. My friend did say yes, and we did talk about it. We actually go to the same church. We talked about praying and God's plan, and like how to pray and how to be helpful, how to be joyful and in anticipation. And like I said, I really do hope for the best for them. I hope that they have the most beautiful baby the world's ever seen, because they deserve it, but she actually did say yes, so she's so excited to come and help me. I was like, you could just, phone call or whatever. They'd already basically canceled my previous interpreter. They're like, we don't really need him, this kind of stuff won't require a lot of discussion, so he doesn't need to be here. But my second interpreter, I'll call her for now, my second interpreter has expressed that she really wants to come. So for my next appointment, which is on my week 16th, or probably right at the very end of my fourth month, she's ready to go. She's like, I'm gonna go pick you up, we're gonna go together, it's gonna be great. So that's all the juicy gossip. I'm glad that she's not feeling nervous or like angry about it, at least towards me. And I hope that we'll continue with good relationships. I hope that like whenever she goes to my appointment, that she's taken in well, and that they really like her, and that everything's great. Because then I could actually not have to worry about thinking, my male interpreters being in my delivery room. I talked to my husband about this. He was like, I mean, it's what is it? What is, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And that's kind of what I was thinking about it. But personally, I wouldn't want my friend who's a male who is my interpreter at my delivery room. I don't. And now having this other option of a female friend, I feel just like the nurses. I feel a lot more relieved about the situation, because you know, originally I hadn't considered that. I hadn't considered the fact that they were gonna require him at the delivery. Oh man, things you gotta think about that you just don't think about. So I think that that's gonna wrap up this video. Was hoping that it would be short. It's much shorter than the last video, but it's still too long for me, I think. What to look forward to in the next video? It's already happened, but I'm waiting for the next video to do my pregnancy reveal videos of me revealing my pregnancy to my mom, my dad, and my husband's mom and dad. And then at the end of month 4, we're going to make an actual big announcement for everybody. I'm not showing. It's very, my belly hasn't popped. I'm not visibly pregnant yet. And I want to be closer to 20 weeks when I know things a lot more, you know, secure in our pregnancy, before I start announcing to everybody. I'll talk about announcing to my job where I work with first graders, you know, and my decision to talk to them, and of course talk to you about like how the appointment goes with my new interpreter. Hopefully, I'm not sure exactly what date that is, or I'll just maybe make that a late video, like this one's pretty late too. Yep. Cool beans. Thanks for listening. I hope that this is fun for you as you listen through my pregnancy story, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.